This is an extract of our brand new business podcast. It's called An Invitation to Meet. You can listen to this interview in full by clicking the link below.
I'm David Marlson from the Evening Standard. Let's go for a drive.
Turn right. And then turn left.
So full disclosure, I was really late for this interview with James, like really late. My sat nav, and yes, I do have Master Chief from Halo on it.
In half a mile, turn right.
Took me to the wrong place. Probably because I put the wrong postcode in, but let's just keep that to ourselves. A 45-minute journey out of London to Huel's HQ in Tring took me an hour and a half. Tring, by the way, is beautiful. A market town with a nice country pub and about 11,000 people living there. Perhaps not where you'd expect to find a multinational food company with a run rate revenue of $100 million. But this is where Huel calls home. And we got there in the end.
Destination reached. Well done out there.
Can I ask a couple of questions about yourself, James, and how you got here? First of all, just describing where we are right now. So at Huel HQ, where is this? Why are we here?
So we are in a village in Hertfordshire, which is about 45 minutes north of London, and a place called Tring. Hopefully we're helping to put Tring on the map. And it's probably our fourth office, maybe fifth office. So it started in our founder's garage, and then it moved for several offices in Aylesbury, which is where he was living and still lives, and then moved here to find a bigger office. And now we're trying to work out where do we head next in terms of office size. What we have done actually is spread that risk a little bit. So we have an office in Birmingham, which is our tech team, software engineering, and we have an office in London as well with about 20 people, and another one in New York with about 25 people.
I spoke to somebody else with the podcast who said that you haven't done anything in business until you've opened an office in New York. Was that a special moment for you guys?
We actually opened in LA first, just the random decision at the time. And
Just random.
Well, not random. I think it was based on team and things like that. And then the learning. No, not random. You learn stuff, don't you? So our learning was, hang on, the time zone between LA and UK is really hard. You get this 1 or 2 hour window end of the day. It's not wonderful. Whereas in New York, you get a much bigger crossover from sort of lunchtime onwards. So it makes much more sense to do that. Hence, so we actually moved from LA to New York, and it's worked out better since then. Much easier as well for our team to travel and the New York team to travel here. Obviously, during COVID, we haven't been able to do that. But something which we actually started doing just before COVID is any new joiner in New York, we said to fully integrate and kind of drink the Kool-Aid a little bit from a Huel point of view, come to the UK, stay here for a week, meet people, get relationships, go for a drink, have fun, fully understand nutrition, all those things. And they love that, and then haven't been able to do that. And as of next month, we're hoping the team to come back here from New York and probably have about 15 people actually, and that will help them feel fully part of Huel going forward.
But what are you doing here at Huel? Why did you want to join what was a very small, risky, I guess, startup? What brought you here? What did you feel, I can do something here?
It's funny. So I got a little bit lucky in that my wife started a brand about 10 years ago. It's called The Fold, and it dresses modern women, particularly in offices. And it was a kind of eye opener for me, because when the first customers start coming in online, back then it was less of a normal thing to do. And you can see the search term they've typed in to come to the site. You can see what they bought and why, and you see the two-way interaction and stuff. And I was previously in a world where you sold your pallet of stock to a supermarket and you couldn't really control anything else. So I was always trying to find a way into direct consumer, ideally food, because I like food brands. And there weren't many that existed. And the stars aligned, and I was contacted about Huel, and it's healthy, plant-based, good for the world, good for your body, and direct consumer. They're just sort of a dream in terms of ticking all those boxes.
Had you tried Huel before you came here?
Do you know, I just heard of the brand about a month prior to being contacted, so I did try it then, yes. And I love the idea of it. The fact it was powder product back then, and you take 2 scoops, you mix it into water. It's a combination of pea, rice, flax seeds, oats, sunflower, and you have amazing nutrition. And for someone who doesn't want to spend all their time eating bad food, I don't know, like a sandwich or something at lunchtime. So I totally got it, and it's a brilliant sweet spot for me. It's why it's worked well.
And just thinking about, all the options anybody can have when they're a child and they're growing up. Why did you go for business? What pulled you in? What made that attractive to you? I'm going to do this.
So I remember being a teenager, and I was a bit geeky. Well, medium geeky, but when my dad came home, and he worked a very sort of traditional goes out to work in the morning, comes back in the evening. There was no working from home then. And he worked in the city, and he'd come back, and I've got a visual of my very visual memory, and he's wearing his Mac and he's holding his traditional briefcase, and he'd always have the Evening Standard in his other arm. And I don't know, when I'd flick to the business section before I flick to the sports section. And I'd then go back to the sports section and then the front page bit, sort of half interested in. And something about it, just the idea that people buy a product and they get excited by it, and they, particularly when you wear or you consume a product and you're telling the world that means something about your views on decision making. We've all got so many decisions we make. So brand just always got me. Business always got me. I love growth. I love the revenue number going up. So. That was
all love a revenue number going up. Yeah.
So that was my early bit. Then I just kind of stayed interested and tried out different things. I tried out auditing between university and school and university, and that definitely wasn't for me. Tried out banking. I went into strategy consulting. Really enjoyed that. It's not necessarily a thing you do for your career, but it was an incredible stepping stone, and very bright people, and teaches you to think in a different way.